Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him two lips like roses and clover, and tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Sandman, I'm so alone, don't have nobody to call my own. Please turn on your magic beam. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Adam Sayne, host of Conspiranormal, one of the better podcasts out there. You guys should check it out. I don't have a better bio for him, so that's all there is. Adam, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Adam. Thanks for having me, Jerry.
Anytime.
You pronounce your name, is it Nish?
Yes, Nish is what I go by.
Well,
it's the middle part of my full name.
Okay, gotcha.
So actually with the bio thing, I think the first question actually sometimes gets around to that. Tell us about usually we try to focus on like your early life, very first memories, very first impressions. So tell us about the world you grew up in, things that influenced you, things that kind of set you on track to where you are now.
Well, that's a really good question.
Favorite Saturday morning cartoons. That's a good place to start.
It is. It's perfect.
Mr. T and the gang.
Yes.
No, the Mr. T Saturday morning cartoon where you had the dog with the mohawk.
Yes.
But,
it's crazy.
But anyway, well, I would say, I grew up pretty normally. I mean, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, originally. Grew up there. My parents, both my parents are artists. Both have been and are still art teachers. So that was a big influence on me, even though I never really received any of their artistic talent. Always kind of been into history for some reason. It's a big passion of mine. And then also like the paranormal has always kind of been a big passion of mine as well. I have a few childhood experiences if you'd like to hear them.
Oh yeah, bring them on.
I can tell you that when I grew up was the same, if this makes sense, it was the same house that my grandfather bought in the 50s. So it was the house that my father actually grew up in. And so when him and my mom first got married, they didn't really get a lot of money at the time, so he rented the house from my grandfather after he had moved out. Okay, so he had pretty much lived in the same house from the time he was basically born all the way till when he was in his 30s, I believe. But obviously not with his parents the whole time. It was me and I'm an only child, so it was just him and myself and my mother. And my suspicion is that house was pretty haunted. Not malevolent. There was nothing really like bad feeling about it. It was only just that you always kind of felt like there was a presence around. I can kind of remember being in my bed. I was about 4 years old, I want to say, and I had this like sensation that there were people speaking above my head, like literally over my body. That I would, I could kind of say it was maybe kind of a dream state. When you're little, I don't know if there's much of a delineation between the waking world and the dream state, but I had that experience, and when I was 7 years old, I was in my room, and I can remember waking up and looking over in the corner, and there was an old lady standing there in the corner. And just remember being really freaked out by it. I can remember basically putting my head back down, and it feels like that I was in a dream state again, where this old lady takes me by the hand and we go into our bathroom, and there's like an old guy in the bathtub. I mean, this is crazy, but this is what I remember. And then I remember like kind of like the sensation of kind of like seeing my grandparents' house burning down, and then the next thing I know, I'm waking up.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's a really weird experience. But there's actually an addendum to it, in that when I was 14, we were visiting my aunt, which is my father's sister, and she obviously grew up in the house as well. And my mother was talking about some of the experiences she had in that house. And she was talking about how when I was real little, she woke up and she goes to the kitchen, and there's a little boy like playing on the floor, and she's kind of half asleep, and she looks at the little boy and says, come on, Adam, it's time to go to bed. And she reaches out to touch this child, and the kid just disappears right in front of her.
Oh, wow.
And really freaky. So my aunt says, well, I have a story as well, and proceeds to tell my mother about how she woke up, and in the middle of the night, now she was in the adjoining room from what used to be my room. And then at that time, 30 years earlier, my uncle and my dad slept in that room. So she had woken up in the middle of the night. She looks over in the corner, and it was the same corner that I saw the old lady, and she said she saw an old lady. And she said that she just kind of, I asked her what she did, and she said she didn't get out of bed. She just kind of went back to sleep, which is really interesting because I've noticed this in so many different people telling these kind of stories, where they'll talk about how they'll have one of these experiences and then just fall right back to bed.
Yeah, that liminal. What
about
was
the?
this?
I'm sorry.
Did you get a sense of the period of clothing the lady was wearing?
No, I really didn't. At the time, of course, I'm 7 years old. I really wasn't like, I don't think I was really looking for that at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't really get a sense that she was wearing any kind of old time clothing or anything like that. I kind of remembered her as kind of being like a grandmotherly type figure, because I kind of feel like I felt that she was my grandmother, and that could have just been a confusion aspect to it. But my mother did tell me when she later on, she told me, she saw that little boy in the room. She said that he was dressed in old time clothing.
Was this house an older house, older than the 50s?
It was, yeah. It had probably they think it had been built sometime in maybe the early 1900s or the 19 teens, somewhere around there. Okay. And an older couple, I believe, apparently had lived in the house, and that's who my grandfather had actually bought it from in the early 50s. Yeah. So there is kind of a history. It was the oldest house in that area. So apparently at one time it was the only house in that area.
Oh wow, it could have been older then. I mean, everything's quite old on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's very possible. Well, this is Chattanooga, so I'm going to say probably early 1900s. In the area that it was, given how the city grew, I'd say it'd probably be about early 1900s.
Okay. Yeah.
And then it got knocked down, though. My grandfather eventually did sell it, and then it got knocked down and turned into condos. So,
was your family religious at all? Were you religious?
My mother was. My father was an atheist at the time.
So, what did you go to church, or were you? What was your experience?
Were you an altar boy?
No. I did at the time. I went with her, but I didn't really take to it It really wasn't my thing at that time.
Do you have any kind of religious stuff now?
As far as like,
Do you have a religion? Are you?
Yeah. I'm a Christian.
Okay, excellent.
Did we get
I never know.
birth sign? Did you ask him?
I'm a Leo.
A Leo.
Leo. I think last week we had a Leo too. I have a Leo moon. So this is always an interesting question. Have you taken any psychedelics?
Actually, I have not.
That's
okay.
2 in a row.
And the reason we ask is it does kind of go kind of hand in hand with altered states and all that. So as we get into dreaming and lucidity and all that, so it's always an interesting thing. Oh, and another thing that we had started asking too is kind of, do you know your blood type?
I want to say I'm probably A. I'm not actually certain. That's probably a bad thing that I shouldn't.
Yeah,
should
you know,
Well,
the only reason
it wasn't blood type. It was just if you were Rh negative.
Yeah, but it's I sort of just, I don't know. I only knew myself as the universal donor. I didn't realize that was O negative.
Yeah, I don't think I'm Rh negative.
Okay.
I would say that I'm not. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
All right.
The only reason we ask, or one thing I want to say before about the spirits in the room was that there seems to be a pattern of manifestation in corners of rooms, or where there are right angles in darkness. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it was definitely there. It was definitely there in the corner. Yeah.
That is interesting. Mm. So tell us about how you dream. Oh, do you dream in color or black and white? Details. What's your general experience with dreaming?
Usually it's in color.
Do you dream often? Do you remember your dreams often?
It depends. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Like I had a weird dream this morning, actually.
Oh, share it if you will.
It's probably actually weird that I'm doing this with you guys tonight, because I had a weird dream this morning.
It's not weird. It's par for the course.
I woke up. Okay, I woke up, and I do the same thing that I do every morning. I look at my cell phone, and there's what's Malcolm McDowell on the screen. I look up and there's look on my cell phone. Like for some reason there's 65 Facebook alerts on my Facebook app. I'm like, what the hell's going on? There's all these emails. Like, what's going on? I'm like, I got to get to the bathroom, and then I wake up in my bed again. Like that was really weird. I've never actually had one of those.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What did you make of it when you came around?
I didn't really know what to make of it. I was just kind of like, maybe I'm excited about something, or maybe I'm expecting something to happen. I don't really know.
Did you read any of the messages?
No. I just saw that there were 65 of them.
Huh, that's interesting.
It's like, what in the world? I don't even. I remember the number 65.
You know what it would be?
Well, especially with Jerry's this out of the blue contacting you a message.
Yeah, that was out of the blue.
There you go. It would be interesting to know if you had looked at him, if it was some kind of prophetic message or an omen. If like it was all these people going, did you hear about XYZ that happened or whatever? That would be interesting. Well, that would be super interesting.
I've had the dreams before where I will dream about a certain situation and it will take place in real life. I've had that happen to me many times. Not so much recently, but when I was younger, I would have that happen.
But more like as a deja vu thing, or more as this is a prediction?
Well, it is weird because it was always mundane. It would, for one instance, there's one instance I can remember when I was in high school. I dreamed of something where I'm sitting in a particular location with particular people. And then I have that same dream and everybody's in the same position that they were in the dream. And it's like, what in the world is this? And yeah, it's deja vu, but at the same time, it's also knowing that I've actually dreamed this before, like I have an explanation for why I'm feeling this sensation.
Sure. And there's a third way to even look at it, is that you manifested that situation from your dream.
That's entirely possible. And I will still have those those sensations of deja vu. I'll still have those.
I have them all the time from dreams, and you can't remember the dream, but it's like, oh, I remember this from something.
Yeah.
How was that? Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's crazy. Very cool, though.
What's the longest span you've gone from realizing that you had dreamed a situation?
Oh, man. Maybe about a year.
Okay, so it's a pretty fast turnaround, really.
Yeah, it can be. It can never. It's never anything that I feel that is important. It's just always some mundane thing, some mundanity of life. It's never that I've dreamed that, I've got to save this person from having a car accident or something. It's just silly, stupid stuff. It doesn't. It's just like, why? What's the point? What's the point of that? So, I mean, you hear about the people having psychic dreams. You hear about that all the time. But mine are they're just useless, kind of. I don't really.
I've heard people talk about that just being you're kind of on track. Everything's in alignment. Yeah. What about when you have had the deja vus? Have you been able to pinpoint a deja vu when you're having it to a dream?
Sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't.
That's excellent.
And so the times that I am having the deja vu feeling, and I know that I am actually, I actually know that I dreamt this. I know in my mind that I actually dreamt this, and sometimes no, it's just like I'm having this feeling of deja vu. I don't really know why. So that it's both actually.
That's it. You're in a rare club with that, which is great to hear. What about the other ways you dream too? So obviously you see numbers because of this morning's dream. Have you received, and are you able to read actual text?
Oh man, sometimes I can. Yeah, I think so. It's hard for me sometimes to remember some of this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
And once you have dreamt it, you just don't. It's like it fades into your mind. But actually, as we're talking, I mean, I remember, I've had dreams recently about a particular person, and it's just kind of, it's very. I don't know. I can't really describe them. It's just the sensation of being with that person, and then I wake up.
Did it feel more lucid?
That's like the third time we've heard that from someone, like in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely
it seems to be a commonly more occurring thing.
Mm-hmm.
Poor way of saying that.
Well, this is what I love, is hearing stuff that a lot of people have happen. That's definitely building on that foundation of collective experience.
Right. And yeah, we're going to try and predict that 100th monkey point.
Yeah, totally. So did this particular dream that you were just speaking of, was there lucidity to it? Did it feel as if that person may have been there in dream too, or did it feel like that was just all your own content?
That's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I don't really know. I don't really know. I didn't feel like there was a profundity to it to make it seem like the person was actually there. It seemed like this may have been a dream where I maybe had some wish fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
possibly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not certain.
So you didn't feel like you were intruding or
No,
eavesdropping? Okay.
no, not at all. I didn't feel like that in the dream at all. Yeah.
Did it feel more comfortable than reality, non-dreaming?
I feel like sometimes that these dreams that I have, and especially dealing with this particular person, I feel like some of it has to do with it. Like I feel like I'm older in this dream, and I feel like this person is older in the dream. Like
Okay.
I'm
Is this
seeing
person a
stuff.
living person that you know?
Yes, yes,
Oh, that's interesting.
yes, yes.
So from what I'm hearing too, this could be one of those things that actually plays out later. If you're sensing that you're both older than you are now,
Yeah, yeah.
that'll be interesting, Adam.
Yeah, but this person's alive. It's like he's walking in on a human.
Right, but if there's anything to dreaming true, then with the statement of wish fulfillment, this seems like something that you would like to see happen from what I'm gathering.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you guys have a DNA link or something, twin flames or something like that. Soul connections, whatever they call
Yeah, I
them.
don't know.
It's cool.
So do you experience any kind of like that is clearly like lucid dreaming?
Oh man.
You know, where you're like, I'm dreaming, and you are
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
aware that you're
yeah,
dreaming.
yeah, yeah. Well, like the dream I had this morning, no, I was not aware. I thought I was awake, 100%. I thought I was awake, but which may be a form of that. But no, but sometimes in dreams, yeah, I'm fully aware that yeah, this is a dream,
Did you?
and I'm gonna wake up.
You've had.
And you have control within so part of that is having a certain amount of control.
I've never actually done the whole like taking control thing.
Okay.
But I've never actually done that.
Do you keep a dream journal?
No, I don't.
You don't. You should. Everyone
Sounds
should.
like it.
It's always easier said. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So have you experienced at all any kind of the symptoms? So one of them is when you're falling out of the normal state of being, and you start sensing yourself either getting longer, shorter, moving through the bed, this in and out of your body, or paralysis, any of this other stuff that goes along with possibly astral projection.
I've had, the sleep paralysis stuff has happened to me, but it's happened to me a long time ago. So I've not experienced that in any form probably in the last 20 years.
Do you recall the experience at all?
Yeah, I can recall. I was probably about 14 or 15, and I can remember waking up and like my whole body, I couldn't move, and it was just like terrifying. And somehow I managed to just kind of slowly come off the bed and slowly crawl on the floor, and I'm trying to scream out for my mom and dad, but nothing's coming out.
Yes.
And I reach up for the light switch to turn it, to flip it on, and then I wake up in bed.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you
I've
woke
had,
up in bed, so all of that was out of your body essentially.
it could have been. Now that you say that, I've never really thought of it that way, and I never really thought of it as a sleep paralysis experience until very recently. I always just thought of it as just a bad dream. I did also have, when I was probably a couple years earlier than that, I was probably about 12, and I had a dream where, well, no, I'm not going to say it's a dream. I woke up and everything in the room is in a different place. Like the windows in a different place. My bed's in a different place. The couch that was in my room was in a different place. And I'm just like, I'm stumbling around the room, and I think I did scream out because I think my dad heard me, and he opens the door, and as soon as he opens the door, everything like comes back into like position. It was weird. And
you were in your bed.
No, I wasn't in my bed. I was actually standing up.
Okay.
So that could have just been disorientation, possibly. I could remember seeing a kind of grayish figure in my doorway when I was about 12 years old.
Oh, tell us about that.
That's pretty much it. I just look over and there's this grayish figure standing in the doorway, and I just put my head back down and fell back to sleep.
Was it a humanoid figure?
Yeah, it was definitely a humanoid figure.
It was a gray.
It had a round head, and the thing is, I always chalk that up to my imagination, because I had read the book. I'd read the book Communion. I read that thing when I was like 12 years old. You know how
Yes.
creepy it is?
So wait, when you saw it in the doorway, did you go, "Is that someone there?" That was the creepiest line in that movie.
I just kind of looked around. I just kind of looked at it and put my head back down and fell asleep. Which, if you've read The Messengers by Mike Cleland, he talks about the same.
I was just thinking about that. I was thinking in my head, I wonder if that came out before the movie or the book.
Yeah, seeing those three figures, he sees those three figures outside on his lawn, and then just falls back to sleep.
Right.
And there was another one I can remember. It was around the same time. It was all around, like I'm around about 12 to 14 years old. And I could remember I had these blinds on my window. It was really a blind. It was like this pull down thing. And it would always constantly fall, right? It wasn't put up there, right? And it would fall. And the thing just falls by itself one night. And I'm laying in bed, and I just hear like these, like, it just scampering of like little feet, like scampering on this thing. And I just stay in bed with my eyes like tightly closed. Don't even get up. That was weird.
That is strange.
But from the age of 14 on, I haven't had this. It hasn't. Nothing like that has occurred to me.
So, and just revisiting this dream, actually a stepping point from this dream, or whatever the experience was where you called out and your dad answered and the room was disoriented. Have you been known to be a sleepwalker or a sleep talker aside from that?
No.
So that was kind of an anomalous.
Yeah, it was kind of an anomalous thing. I've never sleptwalked. I was told by my ex-wife. She told me that I talked in my sleep, but so did she. So I'm not sure if I actually do or not. I can't really tell you if I talk in my sleep or not.
My ex used to throw punches in her sleep, so.
Of course she did.
Of course she did, of course.
So, okay, and then backing up again into this territory we're kind of in with it. Some of this is a little bit eerie. So what's your experience with nightmares and night terrors?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
You do have them.
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of it has used to be. I really kind of chalked it up to being asleep and being hot or being warm, and I think it's just my body trying to wake me up because I am. So I've had those things where like I've screamed out in my sleep.
Yeah.
I had one dream where I'm actually back in that old house, and for some reason there's a couple of people there that I know, and everything is just moving really, really slow. Everybody's just in slow motion. And I just start to scream, and I actually screamed out in my sleep, and woke up from it. So I've definitely had those dreams where people have, where I've just I've woken up screaming and just like realizing that, thanking God that I've had just having a dream.
Have you had any, on that note, have you had any religious imagery move through your dream life?
Good question. I don't think I have. Not any at all. But then again, some of the stuff I don't remember. So.
Right.
So
Right.
what drove you? What led you to Christendom?
Well, it was several different things. Some of it was just being into the whole UFO stuff and realizing that if I can believe all the wackiness in the UFO world, I can believe that a guy, was crucified and rose from the dead after 3 days. that was part of it.
Reasonable answer.
Yeah, completely.
I didn't go that far, but I had similar turnabout.
Yeah.
So when we were talking earlier, you weren't quite sure of, so the lucidity is a little sketchy, and I think that one experience was you were out of body personally. That's what I would have called that. But do you have any imagery around, say, flying or moving, popping in and out of places, stuff that's a little past some of the normal dream imagery that's usually tied in with some sort of astral projection, whether or not it's conscious?
To be honest, I don't think that I've had any kind of flying dreams, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that I've actually had any of this, unless it was something that I might have experienced as a child.
Yeah.
But I've never actually, I can't think of any instant. Now, I'll say that, and then tonight I'll have a dream about flying, watch. But as far as I know.
And that'll be excellent. Oh I love the flying dreams. What about, experiencing entities or others in your dreams? So you're in a dream and you encounter what is not part of your dream imagery. So it feels like it's a walk into your dream, another dreamer, an entity, whatever, something that's not part of your dream.
Well, there could be. But because sometimes I'll dream about being in situations, and maybe there'll be people there that I don't know or I've never encountered before, but I don't think anything of that. But maybe because I just count it as a dream. So maybe so. There could be.
Yeah, it can be interesting. So, and also while we're in this section too, have you come out, besides the stuff that you've pinpointed as stuff that came to pass, like dreaming true, as a lot of people call it, or stuff that maybe is connected to deja vu, have you had anything that felt like a download of information? Like you were trying to learn piano and all of a sudden you're doing it in a dream, and then you wake up and you're actually better at it.
Yes, I have had that experience. When I started working, a new job, and I remember it was putting things together. And I was putting together these digital picture frames, and there was some stuff that I just wasn't getting at first. And I don't know if as much of it was a dream, but definitely it was there. Well, I'd say it was. It was definitely in my dreams, and then for some reason, just like it clicked in my mind
Yes.
when I had some quiet time instead of just sitting there struggling with it. And then after that, I was able to do it without any problem. So yeah, that could be. Yeah, I think I probably have had that before.
I love when it happens. I find it quite wondrous. So in this section also, before we get to some dreamy woo woo stuff, so do you have any crazy dreams that you're able to access and share? Just some imagery.
Yeah, there's one that I can think of that was kind of more the nightmare kind of realm. I had this dream about, for some reason, I'm sitting in this small house with my entire family, and some friends of mine pull up, and one of them gets out with a gun in his hand and starts pointing at it and yelling at me, and is pointing it at me, and then I wake up in the dream. I wake up from the dream, and that was weird.
That's strange. Was everyone in your family that was in the dream, were they all living family at the time?
Yeah, it was all people that were still living. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of intense.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. That's one of the ones that felt really real, like it was actually happening. And I just woke up in like a cold sweat with my heart beating.
Oh wow! So it was full on visceral.
Yeah, very much so.
How old were you?
Oh, I was in my 30s when this happened.
Okay.
So
wow.
This wasn't too long ago. This maybe like 5-6 years ago that this happened.
It's always significant when you come back out and you have those physical symptoms like the racing heart or maybe a sweat.
Yeah.
Going. That's interesting. So do you encounter your sacred ancestors, your people you've known that have passed in dreams?
Yeah, I have. I've encountered my grandmother who died when I was 8.
Do you remember her when she was alive?
Oh, absolutely. She died of cancer when I was 8 years old. I was her favorite grandchild. Mostly because I was the only grandchild that was there. And she's come to me in dreams before. Yeah, it hasn't not something that's happened recently. When I was in my high school years and in my 20s, I can remember I'm in my parents' backyard and I'm speaking to my grandmother, and it was like perfectly natural. There was nothing or malevolent or anything about it. It was just her telling me something, and I'm just sitting there saying, okay, I say like, okay, thank you, and waking up. So yeah, I've had that.
Did you gain any knowledge from it, or was it just chit chat?
It felt like there was something important, but I can't tell you what it is now. It's like maybe something that was weighing on me at the time, or just maybe it was just her comforting me about something at the time.
Okay.
My mother has had dreams about her too, and that's one of the things that I feel really strongly about, is that the whole ghost thing. I feel like if they're going to communicate with us, they're going to communicate with us in dreams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I feel like there's this feeling in my mind that that's the appropriate place.
It's your mom's mother?
It's my father's mother.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What was when you came out of it? Actually, when you were in it, what was your emotional reaction?
Just joy. I mean, there was no sadness or anything. It was just like, wow, I had a dream about my grandmother.
Aww.
And she was, as I remembered her, not not the last year when she was dying of cancer, but it was as I remembered her, and it was a good dream.
Did she
I
smell
love
like?
that.
Did she smell like your grandma?
I don't remember any
All right.
sensations of smells, actually.
That's another thing we forgot to get to.
I didn't forget. I worked it in. See,
Jerry totally got that in there. Do you experience smell and stuff like that?
No, I've never had that. I've never had any smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision. So let's get into some of the dream woo-woo stuff.
Woo-woo.
What do you think the function of dreaming is?
I've always, part of me, more practical part of me, thinks that it's possibly that it's a way for your subconscious to kind of deal with things. But then there's a part of me as well that thinks that maybe you are entering into some other kind of realm, and maybe that is a realm that is as real as this one. It's weird because I've thought about some of the dreams that I've been having recently, like I told you about the particular person, and I've wondered in myself that maybe I wonder if that's the real world and this one isn't. I've actually had that thought recently, and so I think and plus too, doing Conspiranormal and talking to all the people that I've spoken to and hanging out with the Where Did the Road Go crowd. I mean, I definitely see that there's a lot more to it than what
that'll definitely mess you up.
What science is going to tell you. So I definitely see it as some other. There's got to be some, like you're experiencing something through an altered state. You're going somewhere, but sometimes dreams just seem random. So I don't know whether it's just a mechanism that sometimes doesn't take you there, but just maybe it's just basically crapping out all your subconscious feelings and all this stuff. And then sometimes it just feels more real than real. There's times I'm like in a dream, I'm like, yeah, this is a dream. This is just so stupid. It's a dream. And then sometimes I'm in a dream, I don't know. Like this morning that I had, like I woke up, I thought I was waking up. I didn't know I was having a dream.
Well, it's definitely hard to qualify, especially when you have dreams and then about mundane things that actually play out in this state. That goes beyond just the daily filing of your whatever's going on,
Right.
That's a sign that there is definitely something more happening.
Yeah, I believe that too.
Have you ever talked to any people who brought up like dream injection or dream hijacking, things like that? REM cloning?
No.
Are you familiar?
I haven't actually gotten into a lot of this.
Who was that guy? Oh, Donald Marshall was the one who was talking about it first, I think.
It's kind of like Inception.
No, it's more like I don't know. It's crazy, but basically the idea is that there exists a technology that can pull your consciousness out of your body and manifest it like either on another dimensional plane or into a cloned body, with which these elites or whatever mess with these people in these clone bodies.
That's a new one on me, brother.
Yeah. I know you weren't real hip to the blue avians recently, right? It's in that realm, so yeah.
Yeah, I was hip to the blue avians just because I thought it was
right. It was Soraya who didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
That's like secret space program stuff.
Yeah, but you never know. I mean, you never know what. In these altered states of consciousness, these beings or whatever can show themselves however they want to.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
So either whether it's a blue avian or it's some guy hijacking your dreams,
Or a demon.
Or it's a
or
fairy
demon.
from the 1800s, right?
Yep,
Other,
Yep.
you know, this other stuff that's come through
It's
this whatever time
it's
is.
just the other.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I still think whatever. Yada yada. Sorry, didn't mean to say
So
that.
Adam,
You gotta put me in touch with that guy.
Which
I'm sorry, Nish.
so you well, the after show is all about getting down these rabbit holes, by the way. And so but you did mention in this last bit about the nature of dreaming that you didn't know, or you don't know, if sometimes that's more real than this. And this is where so I like to pivot off of that in my own experience. And I usually try to quantify it, or I try to find ground with how shaky memory is, and how shaky, like, even thoughts of plans that I want to do, it's as those things are just as tangible as dream stuff. And I can no longer prove that a memory of me when I was 3 is any more real than the dream I had last night. Yet of the 3, really, the other life I'm living through dreams seems to be the most tangible outside of the nowness where we are right now. So what do you think this state is, this perpetual now that we're all bound together in via lots of reminders, like paying bills and taking a crap and all this stuff that makes it seem so tangible, right? It makes it seem visceral and real and tactile.
But then you get to the what is real question again. You keep
it is what is real, but what is this? What do you think this is?
Well, the thought entered in my head is, like, are we just somewhere in the middle? I mean, it's just kind of like the
limbo.
Limbo, or the pupal stage of an insect, or like the middle stage of a frog when it still has a tail but it's got arms. I mean,
nubs. It's nubby.
Yeah, there's it's just something about it. Just feels like, we're just kind of in the middle of something. Like there's below and there's above, and we're just kind of stuck in the middle. And if you think about it, that we talk about Christianity earlier. I mean, the between heaven and hell, but maybe not exactly that in that strict of a word. Maybe just something above the animal state, but below whatever else there is. And I think that's probably where we are in the physical world, because I think everything that we have is just a tool. Our brains are obviously physical organs, but they're also but they're not us.
Right.
The brain and the mind aren't the same thing. So I think that we're here to experience this mundane physical world the best that we can, but with that knowledge of there's the something over us. I think that's what really bothers mankind. Even the people that tell you that, the hardcore atheists tell you there's nothing else but existence, they know somewhere in the back of their mind that that's not true.
Well, can we trust our senses? Like the whole spectrum of light, where we're perceiving a certain amount of that perspective and that spectrum, and there's
like
other
4%.
stuff going on. Yeah. And then the amount of the brain that we actually access and use. Mm-hmm. So what?
Wait. Bigger question. Yes. So you're, Adam, all in on non-local consciousness, it sounds like.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, so am I.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it feels like that. I mean, we're talking about the out-of-body experiences, whether the dreams are leading to the out-of-body experience. But it feels like to me sometimes when I dream, I don't know how it feels for you guys, but sometimes it feels like when I dream, I'm not actually there. I'm in other places. I'm doing other things.
Yes.
I can't remember all of it.
Yes. It does feel like when we come back, like we pass through some sort of veil that kind of, in a way, wipes our memory, much like birth and death, right?
Yeah.
If we believe in a non-locality, then birth and death are just passages, right?
Right.
Attachments, even.
And I feel like that there's so much other that has happened while I'm in that dream state, and I can kind of feel like what I might have seen, but I can't describe it. Like in that point, my words fail me, my senses fail me, because I don't know. I just have this vague memory, unless it's something that is just that I can actually remember, that somehow, I guess, makes my body have a visceral response, or my brain have a visceral.
What if it's something as simple, the loss of memory thing? I was just thinking about that. What if it's something as simple as that memories, if your consciousness is non-local, maybe the memory is tied to the realm or dimension, whatever you're in at the time, and when you leave it, you lose those memories. But if you went back, you'd remember everything, because it's all stored there. Maybe the non-locality of consciousness also lends itself to memory.
Yeah.
Just a thought, because that would explain why you can't remember them. Some obviously leave a strong impression, but for the most part, 5 minutes later, you can't remember what the hell you were thinking. I had it. It's gone.
Well, it's almost like, I was telling you guys about how I felt like my grandmother was communicating my dreams, and I feel like that's the appropriate place. It almost feels like there is a wall between us and that realm while we're here, and we don't really get to cross it for a little bit, but then we're right back where we are. We're right back on our side of the wall.
Yes.
And and so that could deal with, spirits and things that, they can't really go across that wall either, so they communicate with us. And maybe that, that dream realm is the entrance point to that, but you can't really go any further until you're out of here, I guess.
I like this perspective. With my mother's been dead 20 years, and we were quite close. I loved her. She was the goddess to me. And in dreams, she has always got a barrier between us. And for years, I thought it was just in my emotional content tied into the loss of her so long ago and young. And now, I'm totally, it's so long now. It's not emotional like that. I've just moved through all of that years ago. And so it's interesting when I see her, though, now it's in other rooms, we communicate, but there's always this image or symbol of a barrier between us, a membrane between us. And so I find this interesting that you also bring that thought idea to the table.
Yeah, it just feels like that sometimes too. It feels like that, when I can't remember it, it's like I've left some of it there. But then there are other things that I do remember. And, obviously some of these dreams that stuff that has been around for my entire life. Like I started telling you guys about when I was a child and I heard the voices over my bed.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that, I think children are a little bit closer to that.
Yes. Yes, because we just came through the veil. Listen to me like I'm a child.
Right.
Were you able to understand those voices, by the way?
No.
And was it like a choir of voices? Many?
Yeah, it just felt like it was just like 4 or 5 people speaking really fast over me. And then it was
wow.
Over. Yeah. Yeah.
That's almost eerie.
It was strange.
I have that happen to me usually when I fall asleep. Like I hear like whispers.
Really, Jerry?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I figured it was all my spirits.
There's, everything's on the table for what it could be. So Adam, what do you think about the state of death? So, I mean, I realize we kind of cover it, but also we didn't identify it. We didn't pull it out and look at it separately.
Well, I mean, you're talking about something that is unknown, and all I can really tell you is what I personally feel. But I mean, I feel like, yeah, that I think consciousness goes on and survives in some form, for sure. Whether we exactly stay us or who we are, I'm not certain of that.
Well, do we, is it like we go back somewhere, or do we continue? Is there I don't even know. Like, I hear some people say it's like we go back from whence we came, but then I hear other people say, well, it's like moving to another room in a house where you're moving. It's a barrier, it's a veil, but you're moving somewhere else. So I wonder.
Yeah, I've never had never had the near death experience. That's never happened to me, thank God. But from everything that I've kind of studied and thought about, that I definitely think that things live on, and that's about all I can really say.
Yeah, well, that's good and honest.
With 100%.
Yeah.
That's not, it just seems that that's what happens. I mean, something continues, but whether, like I said, whether it's going to be Adam Sayne, I don't know. I mean, I've toyed around with the idea, and this is not very popular in the Christian circles, but I've toyed around with the idea that maybe reincarnation, maybe we experience other lives. Maybe we, that's a definite. To me, it's a possibility.
Well, wouldn't your research into the paranormal? I mean, it seems like that is something that comes through with a lot of people that research the paranormal.
Yeah, I'd say so. But I'm not so certain that what we see as ghosts is maybe human spirits.
Yeah.
I think there might be more to it, or if there is, there's a very unsettling aspect to it.
What if they're just reruns of knowledge? They're holographic projections from the DNA.
Yep. That's one possibility.
Aside from residual hauntings and things where like footsteps go back and forth at 2:00 every night, kind of haunting, those I would say are not, spawned from people. That's more of an energy attached to a building.
A recording in the environment.
Yeah. Yep. In the stone or wood or whatever, in the organic matter.
Of course, people can probably do that. We probably do that because I think that we put, being intelligent beings, we can put our stamp on the environment.
Dude, Annabelle. That's all I got to say.
Dude, I love my friend Joseph Bishara does the music for that series.
No, I'm talking about the John Zaffis doll, or who was that? The Warrens.
Yeah, they made there's a series of movies they've made from those. Their chronicles.
They're cheesy lies. They're lies.
Anyway, so, and then one last question before we go to
I gotta ask for questions.
Do you think it's possible, and so we've already really, this is like kind of dancing around an idea that we've talked about, but do you think it's possible through the state of dreaming, which we all have access to once you're able to maybe insert some will through whatever powers, so through astral projection or even lucidity, travel through what we consider time and access information? Say you want to go back to early Greece and access some stuff like that, almost like remote viewing, but different. What are your thoughts
about that? That could happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it probably could. I think it's there's a possibility that you could tap into that.
use dreaming as a portal of sorts.
Yeah. We could use that to tap into some kind of knowledge. Yeah. I don't see that not within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I agree. We've had people think that's, everyone, this is the great thing is we all have everyone has a valid, this is all unprovable really at this point. Mm-hmm. So everyone is just as valid as the next. And so this is what I like about these kinds of discussions.
Well, it's definitely some of that they talk about with the, if we can believe some of these remote viewing guys that, work for the government and are there for the military.
Yeah, like Ingo Swann and Dames and them.
There's something.
I just typed Ingo Swann into the fucking chat. No shit.
Jinxing.
God.
It's a synchronicity.
Yep.
Our show's plagued by them. It's horrible.
It's the nature of it.
That's life.
Oh, it's awesome.
Life is just one big synchronicity.
It is. Life is actually a sexually transmitted terminal illness, but
that's a way to look at it.
That's a good way to put it, Jerry.
It is truly.
You're welcome. I never get the chance to use that joke either. So.
Oh, so did you do the questions thing, Jerry?
I already asked. I'm waiting. What were we going to say, Adam?
No, I'm saying you guys got a lot out of me.
Yay. Were you trying to hold back? We were going to get it out, Adam.
No, I just, like dreams and dreaming is just like, it's not unfascinating to me. It's just not one of the things that I think about a lot, so.
But those are the best people to interview because going through the conversation and the way we structure the questions, it seems to bring up memories of old dreams and old occurrences of things like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this. And yeah, I'm sure you remembered things tonight you haven't thought of in years.
Oh yeah. Well, Nish got me thinking about the whole thing where I'm crawling on the floor to turn on the light. That might have been an out of body experience. I never thought of it in that way before. I don't know why.
Adam, that was classic. Down to the scream.
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. That was amazing. I had to make sure I was hearing you correct, that you were not in your body when you were doing that.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't. I don't remember looking back and seeing myself or anything like that, but I woke up,
in your bed.
In my bed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's you had that experience. See, part of this kind of verbalizing things also opens a pathway. So hopefully moving forward, at least hopefully tonight, maybe, that pathway, that bridge is there and something wonderfully fascinating will happen.
And now we're all energetically connected.
Did we have any questions?
We have no questions from the chat.
Wow, we had a quiet chat then. I'm sorry. Hello, chat. I didn't even look over there tonight.
It's Modwiz, Lee, Jetpet, and Robert Paul was here for a moment.
Yay.
And me. That's it. 3. That's it.
Really? Let me look here. Only 3. We have a quiet room tonight.
I know. Everybody's recording tonight, too.
What a crazy...
What days do you record on, Adam?
We record on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday nights?
Yeah.
Corinda was in there.
I'm going to take a quick break if that's cool with you guys.
Yeah, we're going to move on to our next bit of this. So we'll stop recording and then we'll record.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Jet and Modwiz and Lee. We got a question now. Damn.
Oh.
All right.
What are your thoughts on, I assume Lee is talking about the quote-unquote ascension to 5D Earth and all that. I suppose it's Galactic Federation attached storyline. Lee, is that what you meant? I think you did. Do you even know what I'm talking about?
I have no clue. I apologize.
No, it's cool. That's good. No, it's how do you even explain it?
I want Lee to get into that next week.
Yeah, we will. I want to know his thoughts on it. But it's basically the people who channel aliens.
People who challenge aliens.
Channel aliens,
Channel.
and they're getting this information about. That's what he meant. So that these entities are basically channeling information into them, saying that there's a galactic war going on. We're winning. You guys are going to ascend to 5D Earth. Basically, it's like a rapture hidden in an alien thing. That's kind of the idea.
Well, I would say that my opinion on that would be that they're probably not aliens. That they're probably some spiritual entity that's been here for a while and is probably just telling a bunch of BS, just to get us just to get some belief going. That would be my because I think that there's tricksters, and I think that's like
absolutely
they just like to mess with us, man.
Energy. It's energy.
That would be my answer to that.
Yeah, it's energy harvesting, totally.
Yeah, the power of agreement.
Because hey, it's aliens now in 2017, but in 1917 it was
fairies.
It was fairies.
Mm-hmm.
It was a medium channeling the ghost of Abraham Lincoln or something. I mean,
right. Yeah, it's shifted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just these things change with us.
In the 40s, it was the Vril.
right, or the Deros, or
the Deros, like right, or the Serpo folks.
Yeah, the Serpo folks.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for watching. Next week, we have Lee Veltman, our very own Lee Veltman is our guest next week. That's going to be awesome. So thanks for tuning in if you did. Thanks for listening if you're listening later. And we'll see you